What makes the Buddha's path so timeless, so quietly powerful? It begins with three simple, sacred refuges: the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. These are not distant ideals, but living truths that can guide us home. Join Trandy Wisdom as we explore the three jewels of Buddhism and discover how they can transform the way you breathe, live, and love. 1. The Buddha, the one who has awakened. There is a story the wind tells. When it moves through the forest at dawn, it whispers of a man who once sat beneath a tree, unmoving, unafraid, untouched by the pull of the world. He sat not to escape, but to see clearly. He sat not to become more, but to become nothing at all. And in that nothingness, he became awake. This man is known to us as the Buddha, not a deity to be worshipped from afar, but a mirror into the deepest capacity of the human spirit. To understand the Buddha is not to memorize his biography, nor to place his image upon an altar. To understand the Buddha is to walk into silence and let it shape you. It is to recognize that what he discovered under the Bodhi tree is not locked in history. It is alive in every moment. We choose awareness over ignorance, love over fear, understanding over habit. Siddhartha Gautama, the man who would become the Buddha, was not born enlightened. He was born into a life of luxury, surrounded by walls meant to protect him from suffering. Yet, suffering found him. It found him in the face of sickness, in the inevitability of aging, in the certainty of death. These three messengers, disease, decay, and demise, struck a chord deeper than fear. They awakened a longing not to flee the world, but to transform the way he met it. He left everything behind: wife, child, palace. He walked barefoot into uncertainty, not to find a God, but to find the truth. He studied with great teachers, practiced austerity to the brink of death, fasted until his body became a whisper of itself. But nothing silenced his inner restlessness. Nothing revealed what suffering truly was, until one day he stopped seeking. He sat beneath a fig tree and made a vow. He would not rise until he saw into the nature of suffering and the path beyond it. What happened under that tree was not a miracle in the sense we often crave. No angels descended. No light pierced the sky. Instead, a human being saw through illusion. He saw that life is suffering. Yes, but not because it is broken. Life is suffering because we cling, we grasp, we resist what is. And the moment we stop resisting, the moment we see things as they are, suffering begins to dissolve, not because the pain vanishes, but because we no longer fight it. He became the Buddha, which means the awakened one, not the perfect one, not the chosen one, awake, present, free from delusion. In the teachings of Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh, this awakening is not reserved for saints or sages. It is not a mountain to climb, but a flower to notice. You awaken each time you return to your breath. You awaken when you drink tea without rushing. You awaken when you listen to your child without distraction, when you hold your own sadness without judgment. The Buddha is not a statue. He's not a name in scripture. The Buddha is a moment of stillness in your racing heart. He is the space between two thoughts, when you no longer believe either of them. He is the knowing that rises when you are quiet enough to hear your own suffering speak, not as an enemy, but as a teacher. To take refuge in the Buddha is to come home. It is to remember that there is a place in you that nothing can stain. No trauma, no regret, no mistake. Underneath it all, there is a lake that cannot be muddied. The Buddha is that lake. When you bow to the Buddha, you are not bowing to a man who lived 500 years ago. You are bowing to the possibility that you, too, can be free, that you can meet your life, messy, imperfect, painful, with compassion and clarity, that you can stop running and instead sit under the Bodhi tree. The Buddha touched the earth. He did not argue with Mara, the tempter who tried to sway him. He did not fight back. He simply placed his hand on the ground, as if to say, "This earth is my witness. This moment is enough. I am not afraid." That gesture was his declaration of belonging, not to a tribe, not to a title, but to life itself. We all have our Bodhi tree. It may not be in India. It may be the floor of your kitchen. When grief folds you in two, it may be the waiting room in a hospital, or the first breath after a panic attack. Awakening does not require perfect circumstances. It only requires that we stop turning away. The Buddha's legacy is not his robes or relics. His legacy is this: a path, a way through the suffering, not around it, a way that begins with one breath, then another, then another. He taught 4 noble truths, not to create a dogma, but to offer a mirror. Life contains suffering. Suffering has causes. There is a way to end suffering. That way is the Eightfold Path. A life of mindfulness, right action, right speech, and loving understanding. These are not commandments. They are invitations. They are steps you take, not to become someone else, but to return to who you have always been. You do not need to shave your head or leave your home to touch the Buddha. You only need to stop. Stop long enough to see that the sky is still blue, that your body is breathing, that there is a quiet presence behind your thoughts. That presence is not new. It has been waiting patiently while you searched elsewhere. The Buddha is not the end of the story. He is the beginning of a way of being that is so radical, so simple, that it threatens everything we've built our identities upon. He invites us to drop the armor, to sit with our fear, to smile to our despair, to touch the ground and say, "I am here. I belong. I am awake." We think awakening will come like lightning, but it often comes like dew, quiet, soft, invisible to the hurried eye. It gathers slowly on the petals of your awareness, until one morning you realize you are already soaked in it. And so, when we say, "I take refuge in the Buddha," we are not worshiping. We are remembering. We are reclaiming our own capacity to love without grasping, to see without distortion, to live without running away. The Buddha is not beyond you. The Buddha is you. When you stop pretending to be anything else. 2. The Dharma, the path of understanding and love. Before words, there was breath. Before doctrines, there was the sound of the wind in the trees, the stillness of the early morning mist, the weight of silence between two people who do not need to speak. This, too, is Dharma. Dharma is a word that eludes simple definition. To many, it means the teaching. To others, it is the law, the truth, or the way things are. Yet it is none of these entirely, and all of them at once. The Dharma is not a set of beliefs. It is not a book to be memorized or a ritual to be performed. It is a way of seeing and being that unravels illusion, like the morning sun unravels the fog. The Buddha did not offer a dogma. He offered a path, a way forward. He never asked his disciples to worship him, but to look deeply into their own lives. "Don't take my word for it," he said in essence. "See for yourself." Dharma is that invitation, a call not to believe, but to wake up. We live in a time drowning in information, but starved for wisdom. Dharma is not information. It does not shout. It does not argue. It does not trend. Dharma is the quiet voice inside you that has been trying to get your attention while the rest of the world spins faster and faster. It says, "Slow down. Look again. Touch what is real." When Thich Nhat Hanh spoke of the Dharma, He did not speak in abstraction. He pointed to the kettle, the footsteps on a forest trail, the sound of the bell. The Dharma is not just to be studied, he said. It is to be lived. Dharma is present when you eat with mindfulness, when you listen without needing to respond, when you allow your anger to be held, not acted upon. It is easy to mistake Dharma for philosophy, for ethics, for something only monks and scholars can access. But the Dharma does not require credentials. It asks only one thing of you: presence. Presence with your suffering, presence with your joy, presence with the aching humanity of this life. On a mountain path in the Himalayan foothills, a traveler once asked an old nun where to find the Dharma. She pointed to the dust on her robe, to her worn sandals, to the wind carrying the prayer flags. Here, she said, all of this. The Dharma is not separate from the world. It is the deep rhythm that underlies it. It is the pulse of compassion running through impermanence. To live the Dharma is to live without clinging, without needing the world to be other than it is. It is to look at pain and not flinch, to look at beauty and not grasp. It is to bow to the fleetingness of it all and still love fiercely. The Dharma does not protect us from heartbreak. It teaches us how to sit with it, gently, bravely, honestly. One of the most powerful teachings of the Buddha is the truth of interbeing, that nothing exists in isolation. The flower needs the sunshine, the rain, the soil, the cloud, the compost. The child needs the parent, the air, the ancestors, the breath. The Dharma helps us see this invisible web of connection. Once we truly see it, we cannot harm another without harming ourselves. The Dharma is not confined to temples. It lives in traffic jams, in grocery store lines, in hospital corridors. It meets us in the places we most want to escape, because the Dharma is not about removing ourselves from life. It is about stepping into it, fully, eyes open, heart soft, feet grounded. Many who first encounter Buddhism ask, "What do I need to do to follow the path?" And the Dharma responds, begin by stopping. Stop running. Stop distracting. Stop numbing. Come back to this breath, and then the next. From here, the path unfolds. The Eightfold Path is often presented like a map. Right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. But these are not rules. They are not commandments. They are guideposts, gentle suggestions from a teacher who once suffered deeply and found a way through. Each step is a way of returning to wholeness. Right view is not about adopting a belief. It is about seeing clearly, peeling back layers of fear, delusion, and habit. Right speech is not just about what we say, but how we listen. Right livelihood is not just about our job, but how our work touches the world. The Dharma does not demand perfection. It invites sincerity. In a world obsessed with outcomes, Dharma brings us back to intention. In a culture that worships speed, Dharma leads us into stillness. In a society that praises consumption, Dharma teaches simplicity. It is a compass that always points home. No matter how far we've wandered, Dharma is also the willingness to suffer well, to sit with discomfort until it becomes a doorway. As Thich Nhat Hanh often reminded us, suffering is not an enemy. It is a teacher. It shows us where we are stuck. It invites us to love the parts of ourselves we thought were unlovable. There is no one way to walk the path. For some, it is seated meditation. For others, it is tending to a garden, caring for a dying parent, or waking up each day to face anxiety and still choosing kindness. The Dharma is wide. It makes room for all of us. When you touch the Dharma, you touch a timeless current, the same one that flowed through the Buddha's veins, that moved through the forest where he walked, that still pulses in the chest of every person who chooses understanding over ignorance, love over fear. The Dharma does not age. It does not wear out. It does not need updating. It is as relevant now in the chaos of modern life as it was in ancient India, because it speaks to something universal: the longing to be free, to be whole, to return to what is real. To take refuge in the Dharma is to say, I will live a life of clarity and compassion. I will listen deeply. I will walk with awareness. I will speak with care. I will hold suffering gently, mine and others. I will make my life a path. And when the path disappears, I will listen for the next step, because the Dharma is not a destination. It is each step, each breath, each moment of waking up, again and again. Sometimes we forget. We fall into anger, into distraction, into despair. But the Dharma waits. It does not punish. It does not scold. It only asks, will you return now? Will you breathe again? Will you remember what you are? In that remembering, the path appears, and even if you cannot see the whole road, the next step is enough. One mindful breath, one compassionate act, one moment of stillness in the swirl. That is the Dharma. That is the way. 3. The Sangha, the community of awakening, somewhere deep in a mountain forest. Long after the rains have stopped, a still pool gathers, not with noise or proclamation, but by the patient collection of what flows toward it, drop by drop, leaf by leaf, in the same quiet manner. A Sangha is formed, not by decree, not by size, but by the presence of shared intention. A Sangha is not defined by walls or robes. It is the field where hearts begin to soften, because they know they are not walking alone. It is the invisible bond that joins lives across distance and silence. The warmth of someone else breathing beside you when the world has gone cold. We often think of community as something to join. In truth, a Sangha is something we become. In the original teachings of the Buddha, to take refuge in the Sangha was not a social gesture, but a profound recognition. We are interwoven. One person's awakening shines a light on another's path. One moment of mindful speech ripples into days of gentle transformation. The Sangha is not simply those who gather. It is the gathering itself, the living presence that arises when mindfulness is shared. Even the trees know this, how to lean into one another, how to hold the wind with their branches interlocked. Even the rivers know how to carve new paths when the landscape shifts. In such a world, Sangha is not rare, it is everywhere. Once we learn how to see, there are those who walk the path alone, believing that solitude is the highest discipline. But even solitude breathes easier when it knows it belongs. A Sangha does not take away our solitude. It sanctifies it. It reminds us that our silence is part of a deeper music, that our practice is a thread in a vast, unseen tapestry. In the Sangha, we discover not only others, we encounter parts of ourselves we've forgotten or feared. The one who annoys us becomes a mirror. The one who listens becomes a balm. There is no hierarchy of importance. Each member carries a seed of truth, whether they speak or remain still. The strength of Sangha lies not in perfection, but in continuity. It is not about always understanding one another, but about not giving up when we don't. A community of awakening is not immune to misunderstanding. It is what survives misunderstanding with presence and compassion. We stay, not because it is always easy, but because something within us recognizes staying is practice. And so we learn the slow rituals of companionship, sitting together, even when words fail, drinking tea without needing to fix anything, walking without destination. The Sangha teaches that not all healing requires discussion. Some of it happens in shared stillness, like rain absorbed by thirsty soil. Often, The most powerful presence in Sangha is the one who says nothing, a person who shows up week after week, breath after breath, not with advice, but with a kind gaze, with a body that remembers how to be present in their company. We remember that awakening is not something to chase, it is something to return to. In the West, Sangha is sometimes mistaken for fellowship or friendly association, but it is far more than comfort. A true Sangha holds us accountable, not with judgment, but with depth. When we veer off the path, when our habits reclaim us, the Sangha is not surprised. It simply waits, not to scold, but to receive us again, each time we are ready. Thich Nhat Hanh once said that a Sangha should be like a forest, diverse in trees, rooted in harmony. Not every tree grows straight, not every branch bears fruit, but together they create a climate where life flourishes. That climate is what we cultivate when we practice together, a shared space where truth can breathe. It is tempting to imagine Sangha as always peaceful, but real Sangha is alive. It wrestles with conflict, it makes room for messiness, and yet its beating heart remains the same: to help one another suffer less, to walk each other into deeper understanding. We do not always realize how deeply we need one another until we are held not in arms, but in awareness. Someone notices our breath when we've lost it. Someone walks slowly so we can match our step. Someone lights a candle, and suddenly the dark feels less permanent. These moments pass without ceremony, but they leave a mark that reshapes the soul. There is no application for Sangha. It begins when we show up, with our weariness, our longing, our half-lit lanterns. When enough of us do this, something ancient stirs, a remembrance, a knowing that goes beyond names or roles. I am not the only one trying to wake up. Sangha is where we practice trust, not because others are flawless, but because we are committed to seeing their Buddha nature, even when it's obscured. We speak truthfully not to wound, but to free. We listen not to prepare our answer, but to understand what lies beneath the words. These are the arts of Sangha, not always neat, never passive, but always sacred. And it is not only humans who participate. The Sangha extends beyond species, beyond forms. The birds at dawn, returning each year to the same branches, the stones that do not move, but still support our weight, the clouds that gather and part and return again. In a world seen with Dharma eyes, everything belongs. In this way, Sangha is not only the community we join, it is the ecology we remember. To take refuge in Sangha is to recognize that awakening is relational, that liberation is not a solo act, but a shared rhythm. As we free ourselves, we help free the world. Eventually, there comes a moment when Sangha is no longer just a group. It becomes a living field, a subtle vibration that follows you even when you leave the hall. When you return to your work, your family, your ordinary struggles, it hums beneath your thoughts, reminding you, walk gently, speak mindfully, breathe as if you belongs, because you do. To take refuge in the Sangha, then, is not merely to join a circle, but to become one, to live your life as a member of the great web of awakening, to offer your presence as part of a living medicine, not to cure, but to companion. And if you ever find yourself lost again, and you will, listen for the quiet presence that waits without blame. It will be there, in the breath of a friend, in the silence of trees, in the steadiness of your own feet, remembering the earth. That is Sangha, still here, still holding you, still ready to begin again. Conclusion: returning to what has always held you. There comes a point on the path when the seeking grows quiet. The questions do not vanish, but they lose their urgency. The steps you take become slower, not because you are tired, but because you are finally walking with the earth rather than on top of it. It is here, not at the peak of understanding, but in the valley of stillness, that the meaning of taking refuge is revealed. To take refuge is not an act of escape. It is a return to what has always been present but overlooked. The Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. These are not distant ideals. They are intimate, near, pulsing quietly beneath the noise of your days. The Buddha is the awakened clarity within you, not born of brilliance, but of presence. When you sit with your sorrow and do not turn away, that is the Buddha. When you smile without cause, simply because a moment is enough, that is the Buddha. The Dharma is the living fabric of this moment, not held in texts, but in the way your breath meets your body, in the choice to pause before reacting, in the silent knowing that understanding begins not in the mind, but in the heart's capacity to stay open. And the Sangha is the circle that has no center, no boundary, only invitation, a presence that surrounds you in the form of another's gaze, in the murmur of trees at dawn, in the footsteps of strangers who are also trying to find their way home. The Sangha whispers, "You do not need to awaken alone." These three are not separate. They interexist. Where the Buddha is present, the Dharma flows. Where the Dharma is alive, the Sangha blooms. They do not stand outside of you. They are not something to acquire. They are the way back to who you truly are when all else is dropped. Taking refuge does not mean your suffering disappears. It means your suffering no longer isolates you. It becomes something you can hold, tenderly, wisely, as part of the human condition. In that holding, you begin to understand the deepest truth the Buddha offered. You are not broken. You are only asleep, and you are already waking. Perhaps the most beautiful thing about the three jewels is that they ask nothing in return but sincerity. You do not need to be perfect. You do not need to believe every word. You only need to show up to the breath, to the moment, to the sacred that still lives in ordinary things. You may bow to the Buddha outside you, but it is the one within who receives it. You may study the Dharma from a book, but it is the insight in your own life that carries it forward. You may sit among a Sangha, but it is the silent vow you make to care, to return, to walk gently that truly binds you to the path. And so, wherever you are, at a crowded table, in the quiet of a hospital room, walking alone on a city street, you can pause, you can breathe, you can feel the earth beneath you. And in that moment, without ceremony, you are home. The Buddha is here. The Dharma is alive. The Sangha is around you, and within you. You have not missed the path. You have simply arrived. The three jewels are not somewhere you go. They are what you come home to. If this journey has touched something in you, help others find their way too. Subscribe to Trandy Wisdom. Share this video with someone you care about. And let's keep walking the path together, one mindful step at a time.